Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jonathan Evans. I head the Shared Services Alliance. So today, I'm going to give you three topics. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Shared Services Alliance is and its role in collaborative procurement across the estate. Going to take a little look at the forward procurement pipeline and some of the key procurement activities coming up over the next 12 months. And then I'm just going to round off with some of the things that we're doing across the Alliance to try and make it easier to do business with us from a procurement and supply chain perspective. So the Shared Services Alliance is all the NDA state companies and the National Nuclear Laboratory as another government-owned, government-operated body. Working together, we collaboratively procure a wide range of goods and services to support the estate. As such, there's 9 organizations make up the Alliance, and a network of about 200 people across the estate, including commercial professionals and people out in the business, in the quality, safety, community, technical areas that help us define the requirements that we need to go out to market with. Over the past 10 years, we've built up a portfolio of 55 different contracts that support the estate. Some of those we procure ourselves. Sometimes we work with the Crown Commercial Service as a key government partner to access some of their solutions to provide routes to market for us. Supply chain spend has gradually grown through the collaborative solutions. We're now at £450 million per year going through the shared services solutions, which equates to around about a quarter of the supply chain spend across the estate each year. The best news since being here last year is we've just completed our Q2 reporting, and I'm delighted to say that we've now hit our collaborative savings target 18 months early, sorry. So we've just passed the £190 million mark of savings that we've delivered over the past 2.5 years. So great testament to the organizations within the Alliance, but most importantly, the supply chain that helps us deliver those goods and services across the estate. So we work across a range of different spend categories, gather them into these 6 different topics. So we look at people across the estate, which includes things like contingent labor, professional services, resourcing, training. Corporate solutions, which looks at back office support, things like travel, fleet, office services, insurance, financial services. Buildings, I'll come on to talk about facilities management, but we also look at estates management, security, energy and utilities. In the technology space, that's all things IT, from mobile phones to devices to software, networks and IT projects and telecoms across the estate. In the operations category, this is the more consumable areas that help support the businesses in their core missions, from things like personal protective equipment to chemicals, materials, and all sorts of different consumable aspects that we need to buy across the estate to keep the facilities and the decommissioning program going. And then finally, the nuclear category, primarily led by LWR as the lead Alliance member on this, which looks at transport, waste, treatment, packaging, all those different things that support the waste management mission. So quite a diverse range. Highest areas of spend are in the buildings, technology, and people areas. And generally, what we do is we come together to work on those requirements that are common across the estate. Not usually the things that are supporting the core missions of each business, but actually the things where we've got a common need, and therefore we can work together to get the best solution for the estate. Looking at the pipeline, we've had I've split this into 3 areas. So the recently awarded contracts, so 3 in there. We've had quite a big process of IT procurement across the estate over the past 12 months. We've recently awarded contracts on behalf of Doonray with a company called Rock Technologies, LWR with Atos, and Magnox and NDA separately, but we're both working with Soprasteria. So they've all now been awarded or in the process of transitioning in. An estates management contract run through Crown Commercial Service has been awarded to GVA. And the waste treatment services was run by LWR and covers a broad range of radioactive waste treatment solutions and a range of different companies that support that. We do have 3 procurements underway. Facilities management is probably the largest procurement that we do collaboratively across the estate. We're working very closely with Crown Commercial Service. We'll be procuring this through their FM marketplace. We have 4 further competitions to run under that procurement, which will be coming out this month, and they are for a Cumbria solution, which covers Sellafield, NDA, direct rail services, and international nuclear services. Magnox and all the Magnox sites, the low-level waste repository itself, and radioactive waste management, their facilities down at Harwell offices. Big procurements, potential 10-year contracts, around about 650 million. The framework has already been let, so we know who the supply chain is that's accessible to that through Crown Commercial Service, but there could well be subcontracting opportunities. FM tends to have a lot of Tier 3 and Tier 4 supply chain to support that. So if you do want to find out a little bit more about that, please do talk to us about that opportunity. MRO, so that's maintenance, repair, and operational tools and consumables. So these are the bits of kit and equipment that we need. Covers some electrical items, but mainly hand tools, power tools, those kind of things that we need to maintain and run the facilities across the estate. So that's a Magnox-led procurement that will be coming out next week, we plan. So that will be launching very shortly. And then road transport services is underway from the low-level waste repository, and that's road transport of radioactive waste and material across the estate. We also have a number of future procurements coming up. Security personnel services, so this is guarding services across the estate. Again, a Magnox-led piece. We'll be using the Crown Commercial Service solution that's currently out to market, so they're in the process of setting up a framework for security services, and early next year we'll be able to tap into that and run a further competition for the estate's requirements. Air filtration equipment, so filters of both nuclear and conventional requirements to support the sites. One that has proved quite popular on the stand today is Specialist Nuclear Services 3. So this is the next generation of our Specialist Nuclear Services solution, which covers things such as safety case, waste management, package assessments, engineering support. So it's not used by Sellafield, but it is used by the rest of the estate. So if anybody would like to know more about Specialist Nuclear Services 3, our plan is that will be out in the marketplace before Christmas, but happy to, again, to talk about that one in more detail with anybody that wants to know. Inspection and quality assurance services, so this is going out and inspecting manufactured goods primarily, but also doing QA services across the estate, a Sellafield-led collaboration that will be coming up next year. I've talked about tools and consumables, but we also have higher quality standard requirements for mechanical and electrical spares that support the nuclear facilities across the estate. So we'll be coming out to market with a separate procurement for those, which is a Sellafield-led procurement next year. And then in 2019, to complete the IT picture across the estate, it's anticipated that Sellafield will launch their IT services procurement next year. So again, it's a wide range of topics, lots of different areas there. So if anybody has any interest in those procurements and would like to know a little bit more, please do come along to our stand today. We're down by the Calderwood coffee van, just another plug there for Calderwood House. So please do come and visit us there and grab a coffee on the way. So, the final thing I just wanted to finish off with, as well as collaborative procurement across the estate, because the Alliance is the place where all the businesses across the estate come together, we're also working on a series of improvement projects to make it easier to engage with us and do business with our estate, all aimed at kind of simplification, standardization. So I just wanted to pick out the 4 different projects that we've been working on and give a bit of an update of what's happening with that from a supply chain perspective. I'm pleased to say that we've actually finished now our process improvement projects. So some of the key outputs, particularly from a supply chain point of view, that you'll be able to see from that. We now have what's called a standard selection questionnaire established in CTM, and that's Complete Tender Management, which is our e-sourcing tool across the estate. So the selection questionnaire that's the new terminology for pre-qualification, and it follows the government standard. And what we've been able to do is to get a common question set across the estate. There's a template, in CTM that you can pre-populate, so it doesn't have to be linked to a particular tender. You can go in there, once you've signed into CTM, log in, take a look at the template, and fill in a lot of those common bits of information about your business, your corporate structure, insurance policies, some of your accreditations, etc. That just gives you a good starting point then for any future opportunities that come through CTM. You're already set up ready with a lot of your basic company information ready to bid on a particular tender. Recently, we've gone further than that into what would be the next stage, so that's the selection stage, if you like, into the award stage. As you'll appreciate, each procurement across the estate is different, so it's not as simple as saying there's a common set of award questions that we're now going to use on every tender. But what we have done is created a common catalogue that people, procurement professionals across the estate can draw down from, so that we try and keep a consistency in terms of the terminology and the kind of questions and evaluation processes that we're using across the estate. We've also adopted a common tender format and template across the collaborative procurement portfolio. Despite the fact that we've got a diverse range of things that we're procuring, the way in which we do and what we're trying to achieve at the end of each of those procurements is often very similar. So what we've done is to work a kind of common structure that helps suppliers understand what it is that we want, what they need to do in order to bid, what the terms and conditions look like, and just do it in a common way. So if you're working across the estate or working on different topics, it should have a degree of familiarity to it by having a common approach. Systems-wise, as I say, we now have a common CTM platform. So when you go into CTM on any of the Alliance members' websites, you'll be able to see the opportunities right across the estate. All of those publish out into Contracts Finder as well, which was mentioned by our MOD colleagues this morning. Contracts Finder is the government's opportunities portal, so I highly recommend registering on CTM and also continuing to take a look on Contracts Finder for upcoming opportunities. The other thing I did want to mention as well is ecosystem. This is just to flag something that's coming in the future. There's been some investment in the estate on a secure collaboration tool, now known as the Hub, which in the future will allow us to have electronic places to go and collaborate with suppliers on contracts. So the SSA is piloting that with the ecosystem team who have established that new application, and we're hoping to set up some groups with suppliers on particular collaborative procurements that we can start to then share some of the contractual mechanisms, such as what the contract terms and conditions are, the performance measures, etc., and build a kind of collaborative approach in the cloud. Contracts-wise, one of the projects that we're leading is to try and simplify and standardize the terms and conditions across the estate. We have borrowed from government, so there's no point starting from scratch when there's good, useful information out there. So Crown Commercial Service have recently published what's called the Public Sector Contracts. You can see that on .gov.uk if you'd like to. We've taken that format and we're using that now on the FM procurement, and we're also going to be using it on the tools and consumables tender that's coming up. And that's going to start to form our model contract for future collaborative procurements. It works for goods, it works for services, it can be adapted for different sizes and scales according to what it is that we're procuring at any given time. Linked to that, many of you will be aware that there are what we call flow down terms, so things that are specified at an NDA level that flow down into various tiers of contracts across the estate. We've been working with NDA and colleagues across the estate to standardize and simplify some of those terms as well, looking at things like insurance, audits, payment terms, to make sure that we've got a common and consistent approach to how we do flow downs across the estate. As part of that process, we've been engaging with suppliers through the Britain's Energy Coast Business Cluster. We've had a number of suppliers who come forward and help us draft and refine those clauses to make sure that they work for the supply chain. I think that's the key point for us, is there's no point us going off and defining these new contracts only to find that they aren't solving the problems that could be out there. A forthcoming point there, we've developed an insurance guide with the NDA insurance team, which is to try and take away some of the myths and dispel some of the issues around insurance on the nuclear estate, and we'll be publishing that very shortly to give an introduction to what's the right kind of insurance provision on nuclear contracts. Final point was just to recognise the good work that the quality community's been doing with us. I know Martin George is here in the audience today. You're one of the few faces I can see out there in the crowd. So across the estate, we recognise that we do an awful lot of audit and assessment of suppliers, and we're we've pleased to say that we've worked together on a pilot project, initially with Nuvia, where we've done a joint supplier assessment for the first time across the estate. So that was bringing the different client organizations together and doing one assessment. As of last week, we're now in the process of finalizing a forward program, so that pilot's been a success. Now we want to make that business as usual. So the whole idea with that is to try and avoid the situation where one party, say it was LWR, comes out and audits you, and then a couple of weeks later you've got Magnox or LWR coming out to do the same kind of thing. So we'll come once, we'll do it together, and we'll use those results and outcomes to drive forward any quality improvements that we need to collaboratively across the estate. So, that was it, really. I hope that gives both an overview of what SSA is about. As I say, there's lots of procurement opportunities that we're delivering collaboratively. If you want to know more about them, we're at the stand today. I'll head straight there after this if anybody wants to come and see us. And hopefully these improvements you'll recognize are trying to make it much easier to do business with us across the estate. So thank you very much.